What's going on, everybody? Eric Borassa here, and today I'm very excited. We are going to be going over Paul Gilbert's improvised shenanigans and licks that he does in his Sweetwater Pedalboard review with Jay, the owner and creator of JHS Pedals. It's a really fun video. Paul Gilbert's tone is incredible, and he plays just some really cool licks where I'm just like, oh my gosh, what is going on there? Well, today we are going to find out. At least up through like minute 18. I got like halfway through it and I got super tired and I was like, you know what? There is a lot here to unpack. So we're just going to do this in this one video, and if you guys love it and you're like, please do the rest of it and figure out the rest of the licks, then I will. But you may decide like, hey, wow, this is enough. There's plenty of there's plenty here to work with. So everything we're doing here is going to be in the key of B Mixolydian, or like a B blues, okay? So I'm not going to go into too much depth about why he's doing what he's doing. I'm just going to show you what he is playing. But I do want to explain that in B Mixolydian, you can do like some B minor pentatonic stuff, but you really want to make sure that you're targeting that major third, and you can do the minor third to major third kind of thing. You're going to hear a lot of that sort of thing, and then also some B major pentatonic. So we're going to be kind of mixing some of those things. But a B7 chord is B, D sharp, F sharp, and A. And Paul Gilbert is playing on his neck pickup, I believe, throughout the entire video, or at least through these first like 17 minutes that we are covering here. This is my favorite way to make a B7 chord, if you can't tell. There are some other ways, but like this is way hipper than those. I think it's really cool, and you can apply vibrato to it easily. So let's get into the first lick, which happens at 13-17, and it's this. One more time. I keep messing that up. I think he's just doing down and up picking. I'm going to use hybrid picking. Highlighting this note right here, this G sharp, is really cool because that's our, what is that? That's our sixth. And Paul Gilbert does that a lot in here. He really brings out that raised six for the Mixolydian mode, or in B major pentatonic. I really love that. And then at 14-23, he does this really simple but staccato-y lick. The phrasing of that is so unbelievably good. So technique-wise, you can see in the music I've got these dots written up above, and I'm going. What I do is in between every single hit, I'm like almost karate chopping the strings. So I would encourage you to spend some time going, just going back and forth between a couple of different notes, or even just one note. And practice killing that note with your picking hand in between. GoldenEye karate chop! Karate chop! It's like we're playing multiplayer GoldenEye and we're only allowed to use the karate chops. You guys remember that? Okay, I think I just dated myself there. Okay, boomer. Let's get into, at 15-10, he then plays this. All right, so let's talk about kind of what is happening there. So we're sort of ascending this like A Mixolydian scale. Or really it feels, that's more like B major pentatonic. That's what's happening, but he's adding in this minor third. Anytime you're going to the major third, when you're in blues, you can start with that minor third. Oh, And I remember years ago, like, what is the secret to getting the blues? How are these guys doing it? I'm doing these minor pentatonic licks, and it's just not the same. And come to find out, it's that minor third to major third revelation. That's a big part of it. Also, being really good at guitar helps, so that was something I had to learn the hard way too. Okay, and then we got this. You could do a half step bend here, or you do a whole step. You can kind of play with that. That's kind of another fun thing about the blues is, are we doing quarter step bends, half step bends, whole step bends? Nobody knows. You got to kind of just use your ear and sort of feel it, okay? Not great guitar teachery advice right there. Just feel it, man. Just feel it. But it's kind of what you have to do with this sort of a thing. And then he does these like staccato bends. And it was really hard to notate whether those were quarter step or half step bends. And I'm not even entirely sure. See, that's kind of a quarter step. But you could do a half. A quarter also sounds good. So a quarter step bend, you're going to bend it to where it doesn't quite sound like the next fret. So if you were to play that bend, and then immediately play the next fret, you should hear the pitch raise just a smidgel. But if you copyright, smidgel, that's my new word. If you do a half step, it'll sound exactly the same. But you gotta kind of just play with it and get used to sort of feeling what sounds good. Because he does these tiny bends on 7, 9, and 10. I'm not exactly sure what kinds of bends those were. I just know I think they sounded good. So I'm going to go with that. Then the next thing we should talk about, definitely do a quarter step bend on the first string 10th fret. Sounds really nice. You could do a half step. Well, let's go for quarter. Okay, and then this is really cool what's happening here, going from that blue note, release, and then the other way you can do this is, we're going to see that later on, but start with the pre-bend. That might take a little bit of time to get used to. At 15:35, he demonstrates the staccato-ness and the importance, I think, of his like reverb that he's using, where it's very subtle, but you really hear it on these hard stops. So it's all right. So that's what's happening there, and again, that minor third to major third, once again happening. Again, kill those notes in between with your picking hand. Also, the slides, very like instantaneous. Grace notes, not. It's. So work on that, or maybe you don't need to. Maybe it's easy for you. Like, easy please, man. I don't know. Okay, here we go at 16:13. We get our first taste of the shred. Like, oh yeah, I almost forgot. Paul Gilbert was this shred god from the 80s, because he plays a lot of like just tasty bluesier stuff now. He's really kind of evolved as a player, but he every now and then reminds us, hey, I can still shred. What's happening here at 16:13 is this. What's happening is he's raking, so you want to mute with the picking hand, rake across strings 4, 3, and 2, and then grab 16 on the first string. You can also mute with your picking hand, your fretting hand, as you rake across. I actually kind of do overkill, and I do both. Well, not always. Sometimes. Sometimes I mute with both. I don't exactly know. It kind of goes back and forth. But anyway, he's using his ring finger and his pinky. Some people would opt for fingers 2 and 3. A 6-note group on 3 different pitches, which is high, low, mid, low. And he's going to play that 7 times in this example. I would practice doing speed bursts, play the 6-note group, and then stop on the first note of the repeat. Anyway, you get the idea. That's how you play it. Don't watch me for the technique on the picking. I'm horrible at it. Watch Paul Gilbert instead. But at least you have the tab there available to you. All right, let's move on. At 1659, he does something really cool. All right, and then he goes into... something kind of like that, okay? The guitar playing right now is a little rusty, but the tab is pretty much basically correct, I think. I think you can trust that the tab is correct the way I've written it out. So, that's a cool little pattern. Make sure you get these staccato in there, and then watch the fingerings that I've written in the tab for the way that Paul Gilbert is doing it. Because there's some spots where you'd be like, what fingers would I use there? And it's a little weird, especially when we do this 8-9. Well, you got to use all 4 fingers here. Could you do it a different way? Totally. But that's how he's playing. Next, a really cool walk up that goes... And he's doing a combination of legato and picking. He's not always doing legato, but he's not always picking. It seems like he's always doing legato when there's just 2 notes. And then when there's all 4 notes in a row, he'll do kind of a combination of, he might pick a few, he might do legato. There's not a lot of consistency to it. He's just kind of doing whatever feels good to him. But what is really interesting is it does look like in the video, he does 2 upstrokes in a row, which is kind of a big no-no for alternate picking. But he's like, hey, I'm Paul Gilbert, I do what I want. Do what I want, do what I want, you know? So, cool. Next, that leads us into this cool little repeated idea. Okay, I messed up the fingering on one of those parts. But you sort of get the idea of what's happening, I think. Lots of quarter step bends, lots of half step bends. And the reason why I keep looking off to the side, I'm looking at the music. I was not able to retain all of this in my tiny little brain at once. So I'm looking at my notes that I've written out that you are seeing on screen. And he kind of commits this this faux pas in the blues, which is if you go from the minor third to the major third, you never go back to the minor third. So you always go up to the major third and then resolve to the root or to the 7th. But he ends up doing this, and there's actually kind of like a little mistake. There's a couple of parts where if you slow it down, you can hear like he kind of misses notes. But who cares? It's Paul Gilbert. It sounds incredible. His tone is great. His playing is great. His phrasing is amazing. And it's almost like these little imperfections actually make it cooler, you know? And it helps us remember that he is indeed human. And it gives all the rest of us just a tiny bit of hope that maybe we can make mistakes the same way Paul Gilbert does someday. And don't forget that extreme vibrato. In 1722, he kind of repeats the same musical idea as from the very beginning, which was, at the beginning was, we're doing it here. So we're starting on the flat 7 and the root. Like a dat, and he is probably going down up. And you can just bar that first finger. And we're barring the 3rd finger as well. I'm going to use hybrid picking. The only downside with that when you're doing the bars is those notes can ring together. So you gotta be careful about that. So going maybe up, down, or down, up, might be better. Play around with how you want to pick that. Okay, next Dipu, so he plays that 3 times. Beautiful resolution with killer vibrato. Now we get into the shreddy. Okay, so this next little idea, this is all pentatonic. Yes, this is all B minor pentatonic, or maybe major. Tough to say there. Or you can just think B mixolydian, because then he lands on this 9th. And Paul Gilbert is hammering on, and he's going down, hammer, hammer, upstroke on the 1st string. And then he comes back to that. And I love the stops. That's one of the really cool things about his phrasing in this video, is he's not making all the notes sing and ring for long times. He's got he's got a lot of staccato-ness in there, and it's really, really quite pleasant. I like that a lot. Because as we know, Paul Gilbert doesn't really do sweepies anymore. It's way easier to go fast if you can get that stretch in, though. And then comes my favorite lick in the whole thing. Oh my gosh, let's hope I don't mess this up. Oh, I was so fire this morning. I was so extra this morning. And I don't know, I'm getting tired, I guess, or something. But that's my excuse. I'm not playing with quite the same fire as I was earlier. Yeah, that's it. So he doesn't just go upstroke on the 1st string and then skip to the 3rd string. He is raking, and he ends up muting that 2nd string. And it's really cool, and it ends up kind of sounding like a sweep. You could add this A here. But he's not. That is a super cool lick. I like that. And you gotta... Let me see if I can just loosen that up. Just get loose with it, you know? Be nasty. It doesn't have to be real, you know, technical. It's, you know, I don't want to get on my soapbox too much, but you hear these really incredible guitar players on YouTube that are far better than me, have way better technique, but once the kind of gimmick of like, wow, their technique's incredible wears off, you kind of, at least me, I kind of start to lose interest, because it just feels so technical. It feels so like surgical the way it's being done. And whereas a guy like Paul Gilbert, that's the playing I really would like to more emulate, because he sort of just doesn't care that he lets it be loose. It's tight, but it's also loose. I don't know. It's hard to put into words. Let me know in the comments below what you think about that. So we're just gonna walk down and on a B power chord, right? I think that's what he's actually doing. That's what it looked and sounded like in the video. So anyway, there it is, Paul Gilbert's pedal board setup. Let me know what you think. What questions do you have? What would you like to see more from that video or from something else? Okay, we've just launched the Unlimited Guitar Online website, and if you are watching this on May, what's today? Like the 8th of 2020, you've got like 8 days to secure a lifetime membership. Use the discount code Guitar4Life, the number 4, Guitar4Life, to save $50. A lifetime subscription is $149. Boom, you can get it today for $99. After this 8-day period is over, lifetime access will no longer be allowed. and you will only be able to purchase a yearly or a monthly subscription. You get in as a founding member, you get to request a custom course designed just for you. All right, so that's my sales pitch for the day. I'm going to ditch the Patreon thing. Forget that. I think this membership site is way cooler. I'm way more excited about it. There's some really cool content there already, and we're adding new content weekly. I'm Eric Barassa. I hope you guys have a great day. And as my great Aunt Sassy always says, play until your fingers bleed and your heart melts.